Houston's icebox murders remain one of the most notorious mysteries in the city's history, captivating the public's imagination with its bizarre and gruesome details. In the oppressive heat of the summer of 1965, an unfathomable crime sent shockwaves through the quiet, middle-class community of Pasadena, a tranquil suburb of Houston. It was a neighborhood where families left their doors unlocked, where neighbors exchanged pleasantries over white picket fences, and where crime was, at most, petty theft or teenage mischief. That fragile sense of security was shattered when police officers stepped inside a modest, nondescript home on Driscoll Street to conduct what was supposed to be a routine welfare check. What they found inside defied logic and plunged the community into horror. The stench of decay hit them first, thick and suffocating in the heavy summer air. It led them to the kitchen, where an unassuming refrigerator stood humming away, a silent and sinister vault concealing an atrocity beyond comprehension. Inside, packed with unnerving precision, were the mutilated remains of an elderly couple, Fred and Edwina Rogers. Their dismembered bodies had been carefully arranged within the appliance, the various parts wrapped in neat bundles, their blood drained with surgical precision. Investigators would later determine that the couple had been dead for nearly a month, their absence unremarked upon until concerned relatives, unable to reach them, had finally alerted the authorities. The discovery sent ripples of panic through the city. How could such a monstrous act have occurred in a seemingly ordinary home without raising a single alarm? As law enforcement officials launched their investigation, the case grew more confounding. Despite the gruesome nature of the crime, the house showed no signs of forced entry or a struggle, suggesting that the elderly couple had either known their killer or had been taken by surprise. Even more disturbing, their son Charles Rogers, a reclusive and enigmatic figure, was nowhere to be found. Fred and Edwina Rogers appeared to have led an uneventful life. Fred, a quiet and withdrawn man who had served his country during World War II, later worked as a prison guard. Edwina, by contrast, was described as a social and traditional homemaker, dutifully tending to their home and managing their affairs. They had no known enemies, no ties to organized crime, and no ostensible reason to be targeted in such a grotesquely methodical manner. Yet, the brutality of their murders suggested something deeply personal, an anger that had festered, culminating in an act of unimaginable violence. The investigation uncovered unsettling details. The couple's son, Charles, had reportedly lived with them in the same house, though neighbors and acquaintances rarely saw him. A former seismologist with an IQ reportedly off the charts, Charles had withdrawn from society, communicating with his parents only through handwritten notes slid under the door. As investigators dug deeper, they found that he had a history of resentment toward his parents, particularly his father, who was said to have been an abusive and domineering figure. However, Charles himself had vanished without a trace. His abandoned vehicle was later found in a remote part of Houston, but of the man himself there was no sign. The case quickly spiraled into one of the most perplexing mysteries in Houston's history. Despite an exhaustive manhunt, no verifiable evidence of Charles Rogers' whereabouts ever surfaced. Some theorized he had fled the country under an assumed identity. Others believed he had been murdered himself, perhaps by powerful individuals connected to his mysterious past. Over the years, theories abounded, whispers of espionage, clandestine dealings, and dark family secrets. Yet no definitive answers emerged. Decades later, the Icebox murders, as they came to be known, remain a haunting enigma. The house on Driscoll Street has long since been demolished, and time has dulled the immediacy of the horror. But the questions linger. Who truly committed the crime? What drove them to such an extreme act? And most chilling of all, what became of Charles Rogers? To this day, the case remains unsolved, a grim testament to the depths of human darkness and the secrets that may forever remain buried in the past. The icebox itself became more than just a container for the victims' remains. It was a chilling centerpiece of the mystery, a silent witness to an unfathomable crime. Investigators were baffled by the deliberate efforts taken to preserve the bodies, leading to a wave of theories ranging from a botched robbery to something far more sinister, such as a ritualistic killing or a calculated attempt to delay decomposition and mislead authorities. The meticulous nature of the crime suggested a perpetrator with both intelligence and a disturbing level of detachment. Whoever had committed this atrocity had not acted in a fit of rage alone, but had taken extraordinary steps to manage the aftermath. The question that loomed over the case was as terrifying as it was unanswered. What kind of person could not only brutally murder an elderly couple, but also go to such methodical lengths to conceal their crime? As investigators dug deeper into the tangled web of possibilities, their attention gradually narrowed to a single enigmatic figure, Charles Rogers, the reclusive and estranged son of the victims. Charles was an elusive character, intelligent yet deeply troubled. He had a history of volatile behavior, run-ins with the law over petty crimes, and a reputation for being hot-headed and unpredictable. Despite living in the same house as his parents, he was rarely seen by neighbors, leading some to describe him as a near phantom presence within his own home. Investigators suspected that a long history of familial conflict may have played a role in the crime, with some reports suggesting that Charles had suffered years of mistreatment at the hands of his domineering parents. However, despite the mounting suspicions and circumstantial evidence, no concrete proof ever surfaced to link him definitively to the murders. Then, just as suddenly as he had come under scrutiny, Charles vanished without a trace. He was never formally charged, never convicted, and never seen again. His disappearance deepened the mystery, sparking speculation that he had either gone into hiding or met a grim fate. Some believe he fled to South America. Others suspect he was murdered to ensure his silence. The Icebox murders remain one of Houston's most baffling cold cases, leaving the unsettling question lingering in the minds of many. Did the true killer escape justice forever, or was Charles Rogers an innocent man caught in the shadow of an unspeakable crime? Charles Rogers was a man of contradictions, an enigmatic and distraught figure. His background was a tangled web of conflicts, intelligence, and isolation. On one hand, he had a long history of disputes with his parents, reportedly clashing with them over financial issues and personal grievances. Some accounts suggest he felt trapped under their roof, his life dictated by their demands despite his middle age. On the other hand, those who knew him spoke of a fiercely independent yet strangely loyal son, who, despite his volatile nature, had moments of protectiveness toward his family. Charles had trained as a geophysicist, spoke multiple languages, and even worked for major oil companies. Yet his later years were shrouded in mystery, with neighbors claiming they rarely saw him leave the house. Investigators believed they had found their prime suspect in Charles. He had a clear motive, long-standing resentment toward his parents, along with an intimate knowledge of the home where the crime took place. However, there was one problem: his alibi. Witnesses placed him away from the scene at key moments, and the forensic evidence available at the time was inconclusive. Despite the gut feeling shared by many detectives, there was no concrete proof linking him to the killings. Without physical evidence or a confession, law enforcement found themselves at an impasse. As the years passed, the case grew colder, buried beneath a mountain of dead ends and speculative theories. For decades, the Icebox murders remained an unsolved horror story, a ghostly legend whispered among true crime enthusiasts. Every so often, a new lead would emerge, a tip from a former acquaintance, or a supposed sighting of Charles in another country, but none ever led to a breakthrough. The case seemed destined to remain an enduring mystery, slipping further into obscurity, until, unexpectedly, the arrival of new forensic technology changed everything. Recent advancements in DNA analysis have reignited interest in the case, bringing it back into the public eye. Investigators made a startling discovery when they re-examined evidence from the crime scene. A DNA sample found on the icebox lid was matched to an unknown male. This revelation shattered previous assumptions, raising the possibility that another individual may have been involved, or that Charles was not the murderer at all. Who was this unknown person, and what role had they played in the brutal crime? The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigative community, triggering a renewed effort to crack the case once and for all. Then, in what may be the most astonishing twist yet, a hidden truth about Charles Rogers came to light. He had been adopted by Fred and Edwina Rogers. This revelation sent investigators down an entirely new path of speculation. Could Charles's true lineage have been a factor in the murders? Had he discovered something about his origins that led to an irreparable rift with his adoptive parents? Or, even more chillingly, had someone else, perhaps an individual tied to his mysterious past, sought to eliminate the only people who knew his real identity? The discovery was tantalizing, a narrative thread promising long-awaited answers. But as investigators followed its trail, they again found themselves running into dead ends. No records could definitively establish Charles's biological roots, and no new suspects emerged. The case, despite its shocking new developments, remained as frustratingly elusive as ever. To this day, the mystery of the icebox murders lingers, a case defined by more questions than answers. Charles Rogers vanished without a trace, and whether he was a ruthless killer or an innocent man fleeing something far darker remains unknown. With every passing year, the likelihood of uncovering the full truth diminishes, leaving behind only speculation, eerie coincidences, and a lingering sense of unease. The Icebox murders remain one of Houston's most enduring mysteries, a case that continues to captivate and horrify in equal measure. Despite the passage of time, the case remains unsolved, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and shattered lives. As we grapple with the darkness that lurks at the heart of this case, we are reminded that sometimes the truth can be more chilling than fiction. Thanks for watching, and if you have any theories about the Icebox murders, be sure to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my other videos on true crime mysteries, and I'll see you in the next one.